Hey folks, Jonathan here. Back on the wrecker a little bit. We're going to go ahead and there's our roller plates there. It's got all the rollers in it, and we're going to try to get this plate ground and go ahead the sides of it here where I cut it out. Go ahead and get it set on top, and I got some magnetic 90s that I'm going to put in there and try to get everything good and straight and where it needs to be, and then weld it up some. And I'm not going to do a lot on it yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check the distance from front to back and find out exactly how far this thing needs to move, and then I'm going to go ahead and get the cylinder cut and go ahead and start getting the mounts made for that. And I'm sort of waiting on a buddy of mine has got a rotary table that's got a plate on it instead of a chuck like mine's got, and I'm going to do the surface of this and of this plate right here, and I'm going to use it, so it's going to be a little bit before I can get that set up and get it on there, but we can go ahead and work on the cylinder and get that shortened up, and I'll show you how to do that, and we'll start building the mounts and stuff for the cylinder so we can get that all set up. But I want to get this carriage together enough to where it will stay in place, and I'll be able to do some measurements and roll it forward and back and all that happy stuff. So we're going to get on that now. Just got some grinding to do and some cleaning up to do, and then we'll set the plate on there and see if we can get everything lined up and tack it together. Alright folks, trying to fight the wind here, so you have to bear with me. We've got everything lined up where we want it, and maybe some little turnbuckle pieces that go in there to be able to adjust it to get it exactly straight, but I think we've got everything where we want it, and I'm going to tack it in there and roll back and forth a few times, make sure everything's fine before we do any kind of final welding. And once we get it to where we know it ain't going to move, then I'm going to go ahead and get on that cylinder. And I don't know how far back that cylinder has to mount. I'm going to try to keep it toward that end if I can, but that's one of the reasons we're going to do some supporting and bracing on this, and I want to go ahead and get the cylinder where we need it before we do that, and so we don't weld stuff on there that we got to take back off. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this tacked in where it's at, and we'll go from there. Okay folks, I ended up doubling up on my truss rods there to get it perfectly straight, but we've got it, and I think we'll be alright. We're going to go ahead and do a little bit more welding on it where I know it won't move, and then we're going to get on this cylinder. So there you go. Okay folks, we have checked the travel on our carriage, and from front to back it's exactly 42 inches is what we want this cylinder to be. And this particular cylinder I think is 56 inches. So, and I'm going to check it again, but what you do is you check from the beginning of the head right here with the cylinder, with the rod pulled all the way out, and you come up here to where it's been stopping at all the way in every time, and it's it might be hard to see on camera, but there's a line right here, and everything else has been out of it. So what we need to do, we're actually going to start from right here at the edge of this and cut it, and then measure back 14 inches and cut it out, and that way it'll leave a little extra sticking out just like it's got extra here. And then we're going to make a new cross pin. This one's not stuck in there, but I still just prefer to make a new one. That way I can make it the size I want. I think it's like 7/8, and I'm going to go 1 inch with it, and I might go a little bigger, I don't know. But and as for the cylinder itself, now we're not going to take this apart. We're going to leave it together to do this, and then we are going to eventually take it apart to go ahead and repack it. But on the cylinder itself, what we're going to do is come back here. Now this pin's shot and stuck in here, so we're probably just going to go ahead and cut it off where we need it cut, which would be 14 inches. It'd be like taking 14 inches out. And I think I'm just going to make a new cap for the bottom side, sort of like this cap is, and weld it on there. We'll put us a new hole and a new bung in and weld it in, and then I can make what I want for this end, which will probably just be a round bush, and weld it on. And because all this is stuck and no good. This cylinder came off of a truck that actually came from New York, and the outside of it's got a little pitting and stuff in it. It's not bad, but depends where, you know, rusted solid in it. And you know, either way, as long as your rod is good, and the rod looks really good and the bore is good. And this was actually working on the truck. It was actually a rollback, but it was an old one, and it had a really short throw. You know, 56 inches is not very long. You know, usually about 8 feet on them. So this little 17-foot bed, but it's what we've got and what we're going to use. But we'll get it cleaned up and everything. But that's how we're going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and get the end of the barrel cut and start getting them pieces made for it first, and we'll go from there. Okay, folks, 14 inches. I rechecked everything, just wanted to make sure, but 14 inches is what we got to take out. So what you want to do is come down here to the end, to where the actual barrel stops, which would be right here. And this is all just a plate where it's welded on. And just come up 14 inches from that, and that'll be the start of taking 14 inches of stroke out. And you can see I've already got it marked there. But we'll cut that, like I said, and then make a piece and cap the bottom. And then we'll have to we can bore a hole. And you know, now's the time if you want to move your fitting, you know, from here. You can put your fitting anywhere and just weld your piece on, but I mean, you can relocate where your fitting comes out. If you need it, you know, the pin to go here and the fitting to come out here instead of on top. And either way you need to do it, you can move it around. You can do about anything you want to do with these cylinders. I mean, it's, you know, if you've got one that's too long, you can make it any length you want, really. And it's not hard to do. And you know, when that piston comes back down, you want to make sure that the piston ain't coming too far in here. So we will, when we get this off, we'll look and see if there's any kind of a stop in there that hits it, or you know, how it's set up. And because you know, it don't, you know, it's got to be something in here to stop it, whether it come down and hit the bottom, or and the, you know, your rings are still on this side of your fitting, because you know, you don't want your packing to end up where your hoe is. So you got to remember that when you re-drill for this, you know, you don't want it to be up here to where, you know, the packing is going to be past your hole. So we're going to go ahead and cut it, and then we'll check this out. I'll see if I can get, you know, a little picture of it, and we can always push the cylinder down and see what it looks like on the end, how much length we got, and see what's stopping it. Because you know, we know it's not the other end stopping it, it's something at this end, and because the actual rod sticks out just a little bit. So we'll get that figured out. But I'll go ahead and get this cut, and then I'll show you. Okay, folks, we've got this cylinder cut, and as you can see, it's 1/4 inch wall, so it's pretty good size. So you know, the pitting and stuff on it's not going to hurt it a bit. But if you look down in, and hopefully you can see in there, I think you can see right there, right in the center, it's about a 3/4 inch circle that is shiny, and that tells me that the rod was actually hidden in the center right there when it came down. And that's what stops it. So what we got to determine now is if this is just a plate on the end, or I'm in my own shadow there, ain't I? If this is just a plate on the end, or if they actually turned this out and put it up inside the cylinder some. And I'm betting it's up inside the cylinder. Now we know we took 14 inches off. And then we'll subtract a little bit for the kerf of our cut, which is not much, but go in and see we're just about at 13.5. So that tells me that this does go in, and it probably goes down in about 3/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take the torch, and I'm going to burn the slot down through here and see if we can find exactly how far it went in. I mean, we can actually see the end of our cylinder, so right here, or the end of our barrel. So we're going to see how far that goes in, and then we'll actually make a piece just like it and go from there. All right, I'm going to cut this, and then I'll show you. Okay, right here is the end of our cylinder, and as you can see, it sinks up in. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the torch and heat this up. And I think if I heat one and not the other, I can get it to leave us a mark, a witness mark of where it's at. I'm hoping I can anyway, but I'm going to heat it up some and then I'll turn the camera back on. Okay, you can see it a lot better now where it's darker purple. And then let's see if I can find something here to point with. Now it comes back all the way to right here. You can see the weld starts. So it's about 3/8 of an inch pressed up in. So we want to make sure and do it just like it is. That way that cylinder we don't want it to come too far and get into our, get the packings into our fitting. That's our important part. But with that heated up part of it, not the other. That's how that, you can do that with a torch pretty easy. And all this on this side is actually weld, but we'll go ahead and start making us a piece that'll press up in there, get us an ID and an OD, and we'll probably, it looks like that thing's probably, we can go with a piece of 3/4 would be fine. We don't want to underdo it. I'd rather overdo it. So we'll probably go 3/4 thick, and then we'll get us a piece cut out and chucked up in the lathe and make it into what we need it. Alright, I'll show you when I get done. Okay folks, we've got this piece finished up, and 3/4 inch thick is what it is, and just put the same lip on it, and it will press in. It's a little tight, but it'll knock in there, and then we'll put our bushing across the back, or whatever you want to call it, for the pin to go through. And I'm going to show you a cylinder that I bought that was a new cylinder, and they had done it the same way, but I didn't like the way they done it, and I'll explain it to you when I show you here. Okay, I bought this cylinder years back, and it's 4-inch bore, or 3.5 inch bore, and I bought this for a wheel lift, and I actually bought 2 of them, and they was I was going to use them for pulling, not for pushing. And if you look at the size of the bushing material they used for the pin, that is terrible, and I really didn't like their weld or the size of it, so I didn't end up using them, and I used something else, but I was going to have to cut them off anyway. And both ends, the other end's the same way, it's a little tiny end, and I've actually seen these things crack and break out, so you want to use something good and heavy on it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up, but the next one we'll go ahead and finish that cylinder up and start getting it mounted on the truck. But as you'll see when I make my bushings, they'll be a lot thicker than that, because if you get it into a pulling situation, you can break them real easy. But we've got part of it done, and we'll get the rest of it finished up there, and I'll get you another video posted as soon as we can. Appreciate everybody watching, subscribing, commenting, liking. Till next time, bye.